Variety feature here on TV Channel 10. That's located on Channel 191 on Spectrum and also on WKRX and WRXO. My name is Rob Hall. We welcome you into the program. We're brought to you today by Sandling Golf Cars, Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association's 11th Annual Harvest Show, taking place in Butner the first weekend in October. And we'll also share some information with you from T.G. Brooks Company, a landmark in Timberlake since 1936. And we're kind of excited. Next week we'll be taking the show on the road.
Getting out of the studio and on the road. Going to have a great time.
Get to shake and howdy and meet some friendly folks at T.G. Brooks Company. So next Friday, if you're in the area of T.G. Brooks Company, we'd love to have you stop by and say hello. Myself, Rob Hall, and our special guest today, Mr. Paul Westfall, and Johnny Coley, the horticultural agent, will be on hand at T.G. Brooks next week. And as just mentioned, our special guest today is Mr. Paul Westfall. Paul is actually the director for both Person and Caswell County. Granville. I always say Caswell for some reason.
Yeah.
For Person and Granville County Cooperative Extension Service. Paul, and I don't know why I always think of Caswell County, but anyway.
I don't either.
I guess if they needed him in Caswell County, he would gladly lend assistance wherever. But
Caswell's in good hands with Joey Knight and his crew over there. They got a good team.
And speaking of Joey, I hadn't seen Joey in a great number of years since he left Person County and is up in Castle County. I think maybe I've seen him a couple of times, but Joey's a good guy. And
he
really
certainly
is.
is.
Sure is. And he's one that doesn't let a lot of grass grow under his feet, so to speak.
Always on the move, yep.
But Paul Westfall from the Cooperative Extension Service, again, he serves as the director for Person and Granville counties. Paul, the weather is really nice. I know there's a lot of tobacco farmers out there trying to
wind things down here. Still a lot of green tobacco out there, though, I see. But
it sure is.
Also see some fields that are getting finished, with the harvest, and I see trucks and trailers going towards the buying stations loaded with bales of tobacco. They're all covered up with tarps because you don't want to lose any of the leaf on the way to the buying station.
That's like dollars flying out of your pocket.
That's exactly what it is, yes.
And I've often wondered, Paul, and of course you probably know, back when I had dealings with tobacco, it was when it used to be in a sheet, when you would put it in a hoop and tie it up in a sheet. And now with them baling tobacco, another thing is, I guess with them having it tarped, traveling down the road, it doesn't dry out as bad if it's under a tarp. And I think, like out in Kentucky and different places, they don't call it in order, they call it in case. But when tobacco is in order, you can kind of handle it, and the leaf is a little soft, and when it's dry, it's just really brittle and it breaks all to pieces.
Yeah, when it gets that dry, I know. This flue cured tobacco we have, of course, they run it. They pick it when it gets a certain moisture and certain color of the leaf, and then they'll put it in the barns and dry it down, to a manageable figure with its moisture content, so it's not going to mold or rot or anything. And when it comes out, it spends about a week in the barn, and then when it comes out, they press it in these big square bales, about 3.5 foot square. And a lot of pressure in there, so makes it a nice compact box. They wrap it, of course, and stack it on the trailers, tarp it up, and go.
Well, I remember it used to be whenever you would go to the auctions that they would have a crew of people there that has untied the sheets, and they would have the auction, and then they would have to tie the sheets back up, and then watching them load the tobacco sheets on the tractor trailers. That was a labor-intense job. Although they did have a forklift to do the actual lifting, but when it came to stacking it on these tractor trailers,
and spread it evenly and all that.
So,
Nowadays they just put it, pick it up with a forklift, load it in the tractor trailer, back up, and they can stack those up. It just transports so much more easily than it did back in the day.
It sure does.
And it's just totally different in the buying station now as to what they used to do, with the tobacco auctions and all. Now they pull the bale off the trailer, put it on a little conveyor. It goes through. They've got the graders, and they got people that look at it for leaf quality. What color is it? The moisture, they feel that, and then they run a core. You got a hydraulic core that goes down into the bale. They take a sample of tobacco through the bale, and they send those samples out to be analyzed for moisture content and also to be analyzed for pesticide residues. Because particularly organic tobacco, if they find any pesticide residues, then that tobacco is not going to qualify for the organic program. It'll get kicked over to the other side of the house and just be regular flue-cured tobacco. And that grower will have lost his premium on having organic. So, and that's another term that wasn't around back in the day, is organic tobacco.
Yeah, it really has evolved with the years and time, and it makes you wonder what tobacco will be 50 years from now. And I guess a lot of people, when they just heard me say that, said it won't be any tobacco 50 years from now. But I'm sure it will be. I know that. The smokers, it seems to decline, but I think the export is a big part of the market.
Yeah.
So, but again, noticed a lot of corn has been harvested, and see some good looking soybeans, and a lot of people will soon be planting cover crops, getting maybe wheat planted. But Paul, a lot of times when it's a farmer that is diversified in raising crops and maybe raising cattle, a lot of times of the year when it's not really more or less peak crop season, they're doing other things. Maybe they're mending fences, putting up some new fence, making more pasture land and things like that.
There's always a job to be done on the farm, and particularly if you do more than one crop, or if you got more than one enterprise. Say you got crop enterprise and then you got livestock enterprise. There's always something to be done. And what was it? Last week we got lucky and did not get hit by Hurricane Irma. But, we're praying for all those folks in Florida and Georgia and South Carolina and all across that did get some devastating destruction. But there's always something to do on the farm. Those storms will blow over trees, on the fences, and do lots of things. I know a couple of years ago we had a tornado go through Oxford, and it blew all the buildings on one beef farm down and totally destroyed the hay storage and tool storage and equipment storage. And that was just devastating. The fences were just knocked down all over the place. It took a lot of folks with a lot of chainsaws and a lot of wire to get everything back together.
Yeah. Paul, I believe we may have a telephone call. Let's give it a try. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program.
Is this Rob?
It is.
Is this Rob?
It is. How you doing?
All right. Look, I want to tell you, you was talking about tobacco and how you used to carry it to the market and all.
Uh-huh.
You didn't get far enough back. You need to go back when they were talking, when we used to have to do it, when we had to grade it and tie it up in individual balls and carry it and pack it on a basket and roll it on the scales at the White House.
Well,
that's when it was good times.
I know, and believe it or not, I was talking with someone from Texas yesterday, and they was asking about, some of the old time tobacco barns, and I told them, I said, years ago, if it was a tobacco leaf laying on the ground, you did not step on it. You would pick it up and dust it off. But just over the years, it has really changed. But the way that they used
I was raised on the farm. I've got one of the old thermometers where you used to put in the barns.
Really? Wow.
The old log barn. I'm R.B. Wilburn.
Yes, sir.
But,
Yes, sir. I didn't, but appreciate you identifying yourself. But so you have helped tie tobacco before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have tied it up, and them things had to be put out. The leaves had to be out there, smoothed out, put in, and had different grades of tobacco and everything.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you taking us back a few years. Good to hear from you.
All right, you too, Rob.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye. But yes, Paul, I've heard, my mother talk about when she was a child, they would hand tobacco leaves for them to hand tie it, to put it into the barn to cure.
Yeah, but the only place you'll see that tying now is at the contest at the state fair.
That's right. Yeah,
So.
yeah, and it's really neat, and the way that they would tie the tobacco up in bundles after it had been cured, it is an art the way that it's done.
It is,
and it's a lot of pride and patience that was taken in people tying those bundles of tobacco, and when they would lay them on the baskets, and those tobacco baskets, are really nice for decorations.
They're a big collector's item now.
Sure are, but it's just really pretty the way that it used to be done, and but speaking of the NC State Fair, I think it's going to kick off on October the 12th, and if you have the opportunity, you need to check out, Paul, you probably know what they call it, the Village of Yesteryear or something like that.
Yeah, that's always a good exhibit to go through. They've got folks dressed in costume and doing things like they used to do way back when. I don't know how far back they go, but it's good to visit. And
I don't know if they'll have it this year, but I know in years past they would have a horse-drawn tobacco slide, and I should rephrase that, a mule-drawn
there you go.
tobacco slide, and they would have a tobacco barn there to where they would do some curing of the tobacco with wood, and so it's pretty interesting. Again, the way that things has evolved over times. But anyway, as Paul was saying, today's farmers are just like the farmers have always been. It's something going on pretty much just about every day on the farm, and the days that it's not something going on, it's because maybe you're having to go into town to take care of business and do other things. But fencing is something that is really important. No matter if you are someone that owns cattle, llama, sheep, goats, horses, the list goes on. Fencing is really important. And, I was talking with someone several weeks ago about fencing, and I said, fencing is one of those things, no matter which route you take, it's going to cost you some money, but depending on how extravagant and how durable your fencing is, that has a lot to do with the cost. I know a lot of people go with the high tensile electric. Some people go with the woven wire.
Right.
And, we've said this many times, what may work good for one person may not work so good for you.
May not work good, and the type of fence you choose may depend on the type of animal or livestock you're trying to keep contained and keep them off the road. And I just came across this. I do get calls every now and then. People want to know how much is it going to cost me to build a fence for my cows, or a fence for my sheep, or a fence for my goats. So I did come across this little cost estimator thing that Iowa State put out. It's pretty interesting. They got some tables and they show how much it costs to build a 1/4 mile of these different type fences. and they showed some costs for like woven wire fence. You've seen that. It looks like a net that's made out of wire you put on the posts and staple up around. That's a really good fence. It'll keep most livestock in really well, and a lot of people like to put that up because it will also help. It won't totally do it, but it'll help keep some of the predators out of the pasture.
Right.
And that's really important for sheep and goat folks, and particularly, and for beef cattle people, particularly when they're having calves. You know, a newborn calf hits the ground, it's vulnerable. You just got mama there to protect it, and most of the time she'll do a great job. But the fence does help keep some of the predators away. You know, like foxes or coyotes and things. But they'll find a way to get through it or over it or under it or something. Of course, people worry about deer getting across. Well, don't worry about the deer; they'll get over it, no problem.
Right.
But this cost estimator for a quarter-mile fence, that's 1,320 feet. I had to remind myself how long a mile of fence was, but 1,320 feet, it's a quarter of a mile. They estimate it $1.93 per foot to build a woven wire fence, and that's 48 inches of woven wire, some wood posts, some steel posts, a little bit of barbed wire, like one to run across the top, and then so it takes about 42 hours to build a quarter mile of fence, and they were charging $15 an hour for labor to do that. So that should be pretty standard across any kind of fence. It's going to take you time
Right.
to do it. Just how much time is it going to take? And woven wire does take a little bit more because it's kind of hard to handle and get straight and get tensioned on it like you need. Now, a barbed wire fence, this was for a 5-wire fence. They said it cost $1.48 to build that quarter mile of fence per foot. That's a per foot cost. Fencing is not cheap by any means.
It really isn't, and of course, when you hear $1.48 per foot, that may not sound like a lot, but when you take a pasture that is say 1 acre in size, it's going to be 210 feet wide, 210 feet long, and so when you figure that 4 sides, that's roughly about 840 feet.
Yep.
And if you multiply that times, $1.48 per foot, it can add up. But whenever you are building a fence, it is something that if you do it right, it will last a great number of years, unless you have somebody to drive through it, or a tree to fall on it, or an act of God, and it does require maintenance, but you're better off if you're getting into it for the long haul. Do it right, and that way you won't have to worry about, should I've done this or should I've done that? Wouldn't you agree, Paul?
No, yeah, it's better to do it right the first place. Then a lot of our fences you go around and look at, they're kind of like what my dad used to refer to. They were built to last 30 years. Trouble is, that was 40 years ago. So the wire does rust, the posts do rot out, so they do require a little maintenance to keep them in that top condition like you're talking about. But some of the folks, a lot of folks nowadays like to put up these high tensile fences and use electricity in them. And the estimate on that's about 89 cents a foot, because you don't have to run as many strands of wire. If you electrify 2 of them, that does a really good job of keeping livestock in. You can make them 4-wire, 5-wire. You can make adjustments on any of these type fences, except maybe the net wire.
Right.
The woven wire, you got 4 foot of woven wire, you're going to roll that out and that's it. But you can make a 2-wire, 3-wire, 4-wire. I mean, we've on our farm back home, we use some 3-wire fences on occasion, barbed wire fences, back in the backside along the woods to just kind of keep the cows in. And my dad kind of called that one our fool 'em fence, but they'd get out every now and then. We'd have to go get them and bring them back, but not very often.
Yeah, well, another thing, when you use a high tensile, you don't have to put your post as close together as you would with woven wire. And another thing, Kim Woods was our guest last week, and we was talking about it. And another thing, if you're animals that you have inside of the fence, if they have plenty to eat and fresh water, they don't really have a desire to go anywhere.
Most of the time, very content. We like our cows and our sheep and our goats and our llamas and alpacas, horses, all to be happy on the farm.
That's
and
right.
The best way to do that is to keep clean, fresh water out for them and make sure they've got the adequate nutrition, of forages and feeds that they like to eat. They're not going to go very far away from that.
That's right. Exactly right. But so, and you say that fence cost came from where?
Iowa State
Iowa
University.
State.
Yeah, there's some
And I know they've got a lot of fencing up there.
Wide open spaces. Yeah, a lot more than we have. We got some hills and valleys and things to go through. They got wide open spaces to run fences along. So,
Yeah.
but these are based on some pretty solid numbers. They can be adjusted one way or the other depending on how you want to build your fences. For instance, some people, instead of going out buying a 4-inch or a 6 or 8-inch post, they might go out and split the cedar tree up. A lot of people like to use a cedar tree. Locust tree makes a good fence post. So if you've got some property and have some of those trees available and think you might want to use them, by all means, go ahead. They last real well. They're both resistant to insects and do a good job. A cedar post lasts, as long as a treated post that you buy at one of the stores.
Yeah, sometimes with the cedar post, especially if they've got a good heart to them, they'll last a long time. But if they don't have a real good heart, where they are in the ground, that part will deteriorate some. And but it's one of those things that you have to kind of keep an eye on, and it's not a bad idea every so often. You go around your fence and you kind of shake every fence post to get an idea if it's pretty solid or not.
Yep.
So
if not, your animals are going to let you know when they knock it over.
That's right.
Like it. Most times they'll stay in, but sometimes they'll get spooked and run and hit the fence. They may not hit it right there, but they hit it somewhere along, and that's another advantage of a high tensile too. If animals hit that, it tends to give a little, and whereas a barbed wire or a woven wire fence is pretty rigid, they'll tend to break, whereas a high tensile will give and then it'll spring back. Of course, there are some line tensioners and springs built into the system also. So a lot of people like high tensile for that reason, and the other reason, it doesn't have all those sharp points to catch. When you're trying to cross the fence, it won't catch your shirt or your pants when you're getting through there and leave scratches.
Well, Paul, you do raise a good point, and in many cases, if you have maybe dogs or coyotes or something to get in the pastures and start running the livestock, they have been known to run them through fences and things like that. But one nice thing about if you do have high tensile electric wire, if it's a decent sized dog, he's not necessarily going to be able to get into the pasture without maybe being shot.
Right.
And also, that's the nice thing about the woven wire. It keeps predators out. And a lot of people that have cows, they have a donkey in the pasture with the cows for her protection. And I've been told that whether it's a dog or a coyote, there's a lot of donkeys out here that doesn't take any mercy on either one.
That's right. Yeah. For some reason, donkeys will chase a canine out of the pasture. And they've been very successful doing that. Some people, have used llamas for that purpose. And I heard a sheep producer yesterday said that she had some alpacas that had those tendencies also, that would chase, dogs, especially her dogs, out of the pasture. But guard animals are not a new concept. Sheep producers have had dogs along with their sheep for a long time, and like Great Pyrenees and some other breeds are really good for that, to protect them and keep predators away. But those are one way to try and keep your animals safe, from predators like that.
Yeah. Paul, when you talk about predators for cattle, I've had several cattle farmers to tell me that, they've got donkeys to protect the cattle
Right.
from coyote and dogs. But they say that a lot of times when it's a newborn calf, they have trouble with buzzards.
Yes.
And they say that the buzzards will poke out the newborn calf's eyes and the calf will die. Is it any way that you can ward off buzzards that you are aware of?
Buzzards are tough to deal with. For one thing, they're federally protected, so we can't recommend eliminating them.
Right.
But the best thing we can do, the best recommendations that we can do is to make sure that you've got a nice calving pasture close to the house or close to the barn where there is somebody around that can help scare these vultures. The black vulture is the main culprit here.
Right.
And they're pretty aggressive, and what they do is, say cow goes off by herself, has her calf, here come the vultures, and they'll get around and they start worrying the cow and worrying the cow. She does a good job of keeping them fought off, but when it goes on for hours and hours, she gets tired, and they just wear her out, and they're wearing her down. When you got, a dozen or 20 vultures, when she's turned one way, here could the vultures come in right behind her. She has to turn around and chase them off the other way. So, all right, what we recommend is try to keep them close and keep an eye on them and help them out when you can. There's not any deterrents we can put out. You'd be lucky if you had a dog or something that would chase off the buzzard, but then your donkey wouldn't like the like the dog being out there either. So it is a dilemma for sure.
Yeah.
I've heard the same complaint of people losing cattle to or losing calves to vultures like that. The wildlife folks are very aware of it, but I haven't heard of any solutions yet for that particular problem. But they can be a real more and more of a pest than they used to be. Let's put it that way.
Well, either way, we'll continue talking on about fencing and some other things, but several events that's going to be taking place in the near future. Coming up next Tuesday, that will be September 19th. It's National Preparedness Month. Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. And very important, parents, safety preparedness. It's actually going to be a meeting to be held, and more or less maybe more so a seminar than a meeting at the Person County Office Building Auditorium on Tuesday, September the 19th at 5:30. The guest speaker is going to be Doug Young, Emergency Services Director, and he's going to be talking about ways that you can kind of prepare yourself and your family, for disasters and, tornadoes, severe storms, hurricanes.
Yep, that
Good
case in point right there.
That's right, and also with wintertime coming on, you never know when we may have an ice storm or
Power
a heavy
outages.
storm and a power outage, and y'all, the time to think about what to do is when these things are not happening.
Right, yeah. And that's the whole point of preparedness. If you know that these things do happen, let's get ourselves ready and know what to do and make sure we've got supplies and there are other materials available should it happen.
Yes.
And just it makes it a whole lot easier to get through a natural disaster if you are prepared, just in case. Have your battery supply, have your flashlights, have your food that you can survive for 3 days at least, or a week is better. Have some twine or some rope available. Make sure you've got adequate clothing and adequate, if it's in cold weather, blankets and things, just whatever it takes. fresh water is critical because we can't live very long without water, fresh
That's right.
water. And usually when there's a disaster, you can't depend on the water supply that's outside. So
Yeah. And you know something else, with cooler weather headed this way, it may not be a bad idea in your automobile to maybe keep a blanket in
Right.
there. Also, it's always nice to have a flashlight. But, you know, the thing about the blanket is if you ever get out on the road and you have problems and you're cold, use the blanket to wrap up in. So,
absolutely.
but again, this National Preparedness Month is the month of September, and they'll be having a safety preparedness seminar. Again, it will be Tuesday, September 19th at 5:30 at the Person County Office Building Auditorium. It's no charge to attend. The only thing, they just ask that you RSVP by calling 336-599-1195. And they ask that you RSVP by Monday, September 18th, 336-599-1195. We need to take a break and get a word on for one of our sponsors, the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association's 11th annual show will be on Friday, October the 6th, Saturday, October 7th, and Sunday, October 8th. It will be in Butner. It's a pretty nice show. If you're someone that enjoys things of yesteryear, antique tractors, hit and miss engines, you need to make it your plans to be there one of the 3 days, or why not all 3 days. The 11th Annual Harvest Show, sponsored by the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association, will be held the first weekend in October. Come on to Butner, to the corner of 12th and G Streets, to the showgrounds. You'll have a fun time. If you're someone that enjoys antique tractors and equipment, they'll have lots of it on display. Hit and miss engines will be there. See the blacksmith at work. Vendors and food will be available. They'll have a children's play area. Daily admission is $5. For more information, log on to the website lgaha.com for updates. Show dates will be Friday, October the 6th, noon to 5, Saturday, October the 7th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, October the 8th, 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. For more information, you can contact Al Govan by calling 919-528-1652. It's the 11th Annual Harvest Show, sponsored by Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Log on to www.lgaha.com for more information. All righty, here we are back on the Gardeners Corner program. Our special guest today is Mr. Paul Westfall. He is the Director for Person and Granville Counties of the Cooperative Extension Service. Paul, you've got a couple of events coming up soon that you want to share some information on.
Sure, Rob. One is, this is a pretty important one, I think. It's a pesticide collection day. This is for folks that have a fungicide, a herbicide, or insecticide they have left over, not going to use, or they are cleaning out an old barn and find something that's just there and you don't have any intention of using it. Bring that to the pesticide collection day that's going to be held on Tuesday, September 26th, later this month, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And we're going to do this at the Hyco Warehouse, which is located at 1965 Durham Road. Roxborough is kind of across from Lowe's down there.
That's right.
For folks that use places for reference rather than street numbers. But if you want more information, contact us here at North Carolina Cooperative Extension in Person County. The number's 336-599-1195. There's also information about this up on our website. You can check that out. But and I had a gentleman call me yesterday. Said he wanted to be sure that he got there that day and he wanted to register for it. I said, well, just drop in between these hours, But he said he was cleaning out an old barn. He had over 100 containers, small containers of different things that he needed to get rid of. So I appreciated him calling me, and I let the folks with the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services that provide this, the collection days, I let them know to expect at least one load that's got a lot of material. But he thanked me for that. But there's no charge to the farmer or the homeowner to bring their pesticides for disposal at this. This is funded through the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. We help them coordinate them, and they're scheduled about every other year in each county across the state. So ours for this year is going to be September 26th between 10 and 2 there at the Heiko Warehouse, 1965 Durham Road.
And that's a Tuesday. And one thing I guess we should add, it's for, pesticide chemicals only.
Right.
No burnt motor oil.
No paint.
Or paint.
No paint thinner.
Paint thinner. It's for pesticides only. And they ask that whatever pesticide that you bring in, for it to be in a marked jug or bottle or whatever.
Should have a legible label with it,
Yeah,
so they know exactly what material they're dealing with. I mean, they're very careful. They put these inside, plastic bags. They seal them up, and then they put them inside a drum, seal that up, and then they put them on the truck, and it's hauled away to a hazardous waste incinerator for final disposal.
And if you need more information on that, you can call the Person County office of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, 336-599-1195. Again, Tuesday, September 26th, 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at Heiko Warehouse. And it's right out here on Durham Road, kind of diagonal across from Lowe's Home Improvement.
Okay.
You got another event going on.
Got another thing coming up. This one's actually over in Granville County, but it's certainly open to Person County participants. This is what we call the 5-county beef tour. The 5 counties on this are usually, this rotates between these 5 counties of Granville, Vance, Warren, Franklin, and Wake. But we certainly welcome everybody around that's interested in beef cattle to come and participate. We're going to start the day at about 8:30 in the morning. This is Thursday, September 28th. We'll start registration at 8:30 in the morning, but we do ask people let us know they're coming before we get to that day, so RSVP, because we're providing lunch on this tour. But we're going to start there at the Butner Beef Cattle Field Lab. It's at 8800 Cassam Road, Bahama address, but it's really closer to Butner than anywhere else.
That's right.
But it is a Bahama address, but it's there at the beef unit, and we're going to talk about what's going on research-wise in beef cattle there at the unit, and the bulls for the bull test are there. They're on test right now, so we're going to talk about that a little bit.
And now, to kind of lay it out on the map for you, it's right there close by the National Guard training firing range.
Right.
And
I tell people when they're turning on the Range Road off of 075 there down close to Butner, go to the 3rd cannon and turn left. So
it's pretty neat the way they've got some of the old military equipment on the corners.
Some unique landmarks there.
It is
we're going to go from there up to Enon Road in Granville County to tour the Hollister Farm. They've got Angus Cross cattle, and he's got some other business interests. He actually owns a restaurant in Durham. Where he said David has said his goal is to actually market his beef through his restaurant. So that's kind of a deal.
That would definitely be farm to fork, wouldn't it?
It certainly would, yeah. A farm to restaurant table to plate. Then we'll go to Thomas Boone's farm. They call it Boone's Farm. It's just outside of Oxford, on the other side of Oxford. And we'll have our lunch there. Boone's Farm has only been in existence 3 years. So this is some new folks in the beef cattle industry. And then after lunch, we're going up to Little Grassy Creek Farm just outside of Stovall, and we're going to look at a solar-powered water system for beef cattle on there. So we think we got an interesting tour lined up, and certainly if anyone in our listening audience wants to participate, just give us a call at the Person County office. There again, the number is 336-599-1195. Send me an email to paul_Westfall at ncsu.edu to register. We just want to know your name, your phone number, email, and how many folks you're bringing with you, so we can plan for lunch.
And is it okay if they call the Oxford
They can
office?
call the Oxford office. That's 919-603-1350 to register. You can call any any of our local extension offices to register.
And it's no charge. The only thing, you will have to provide your own transportation
Right.
from one farm location to the other.
This is a drive it yourself tour. We're not chartering a bus or anything. It's a drive it yourself tour.
And speaking of the bull experiment or the bull test station, where the field day will start at, that tested bull sale, I think, will be is it the second Friday in December, or was it the first Friday?
Either second or third Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So-
don't have that date with me right now.
That'll be coming up in December, and we were fortunate enough to attend it last year. Maybe we can do it this year, and saw some really nice breeding stock.
Oh yeah,
there.
there's some
Really did.
good cattle, and not all the bulls that go through the test make it to the
That's
sale.
right. All right, let's get a word on for T.G. Brooks Company. They're located 411 Helena Mariah Road in Timberlake. We're looking forward to doing the show live from T.G. Brooks's next week, and they're always nice, and look forward to going out there whenever we have the opportunity. We'll be back after a word from T.G. Brooks Company. Paul, can I?
My little fall is starting to come on, and it's time now to get mums and pansies. Also time for collards, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, and other fall vegetables. T.G. Brooks Company has them. This is the best time of the year right now to get your yard off to a good start, too. Remember to kill those weeds in the lawn and get ready for fall seeding. T.G. Brooks Company has the lawn chemicals to do the job. This is the best time of the year to enrich and repair the lawn. T.G. Brooks Company has the new top choice turf grass seed for greener and plusher lawns. Also available are rental lawn aerators and pull and walk behind pluggers and spreaders, bag and bulk mulches, and bulk planting soil. They have your fertilizers in line. They still have plenty of lawn sprinklers, water hose, and water hose fittings if you need hose repair. If you need yard tools, they're in abundance, plus wheelbarrows. Pick up a couple of nice rakes while you're there. Leaves will be here soon. Fresh pine needles, too. And if you are the homeowner or the professional landscaper, both get the same kind of service. Taylor wood stove parts are available to get your stove serviced up for cold weather. Remember, they have dog kennels, shavings, and of course Bartlett animal feeds and Pride dog food. Your family will be smiling when you finish off the day with a delicious hand-cut ribeye steak you bought at T.G. Brooks Company. And it's still time to make some homemade ice cream on these nice warm days. T.G. Brooks Company, been around since 1936. 411 Helena Mariah Road, next door to Community Pharmacy in Timberlake.
All righty, here we're all back on the Gardener's Corner program. Been talking about a wide variety of topics, but mainly centered around fencing. And now, Paul, you was talking about another type of fencing that I'm not really familiar with. I think maybe I have seen it, but don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, this is I think what you're referring to is what we use more for interior fences now, and it's a temporary fence, and we use something called polywire, which is just a long plastic string that's got little metal woven through it that you can run an electric current through. And these polywire fences are great for people. In fact, that's the most important piece of equipment you have if you want to do intensive grazing with your livestock, because you can divide up your pasture and allow how much you need for say cattle to graze for a day or 2 or 3 days, and then you can move that fence very easily because it's not permanent. You haven't dug a post hole and tamped a post in and stapled wire to it or anything. We use this polywire. You just roll it out on a reel, and we have what we call step posts. They're just plastic fence posts that have a little spike about 4 or 5 inches long. You just, and a little platform to put your foot on, you just step them into the ground. They're not meant to stay up forever, and they don't, because we like to move these fences around a little bit to take advantage of our forage, to maybe route cattle to water, if you need to make a lane to a water source and graze another place. It's very flexible in how you can use this stuff. And these rolls of fencing, rolls of polywire a whole lot less expensive than buying, say barbed wire, woven wire, or even high tensile wire. But you got to have a good fence charger if you're going to do this type of a system.
Right.
If your fence charger doesn't put out enough of a jolt to make the livestock respect the fence, they'll go right through it. They'll see, oh, I want to eat that piece of grass on the other side. It's always greener, that. But the poly wire is a really, really useful tool in developing a intensive grazing system for animals.
Well, now that you talk about it, I remember, I guess maybe it's been a couple of years ago that the Extension Service kind of co-sponsored a forage field day.
Right.
And it was out on the Blackett farm, and Jay Fashee and Fashee Farms was out there, and they did have some fencing representatives out there. And just to go back, to some things that we've talked about in the past, and Paul, I was thinking you were saying that when you do more or less intensive forest foraging, when you do that, the percentage goes up to about 80% uses of your pasture.
Right.
That's where if cattle have free roam, that cuts it back to about 50%.
Half. That's correct. You remembered very well, Rob.
Well, I got lucky on that. So.
There we go.
Hey, let's get a word on for Sandling Golf Cars. We appreciate their business, and we appreciate all of our sponsors' business. But Sandling Golf Cars, they have livestock trailers, utility trailers, golf cars, Wilmington grills, and more. We'll be back right after this.
It's grilling season, and you would enjoy grilling out on a Wilmington grill available from Sandling Golf Cars, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. They carry the full line of Wilmington grill products. They have in stock the charcoal, propane, and fire pit grill. Stop in and see Al, Hillary, and Will for all of your Wilmington grill needs at Sandling Golf Cars. They're open weekdays 8 until 5:30, Saturdays 9 until 1. Visit the website sandlinggolfcars.com or call 919-693-4626 or toll free 1-800-221-9267. Are you in need of repairs on your golf car? See Bradley and Dennis at Sandling Golf Cars for all of your parts and repair service, and they have Trojan batteries at Sandling Golf Cars.
All right, here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Our special guest today has been Paul Westfall of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, where he serves as director for both Person and Granville counties. And I just had someone to send me a text message, and I'll try to get you an answer to this. And it actually came from Chip Stone, who is one of our local farmers. Chip is a tobacco farmer. He has corn, soybeans, and he is diversified even more this year with about 50 plus acres of sweet potatoes.
Oh, wow.
And there's several farmers here in the area that is planted sweet potatoes. And from what I understand, it seems to be something good for them, and I hope it works out. And that's the thing. Years ago, it used to be, you ask a farmer, what do you raise? Tobacco. But the way that it has gotten over the years, farmers are a lot more diversified.
Well,
than
there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it's economics. We won't say anything about that. Some of it also, they had to diversify for insect and disease control. Because doing the crop rotations and breaking up disease and insect life cycles. But then switching over to the sweet potato or adding that to the rotation, people are looking for viable crops, that will provide a good income for them. And the sweet potatoes, if you got the right kind of soil for it, then that could be a very viable option to go ahead and sell sweet potatoes. I don't think we have anything like they have on the scale down in, say, Nash County and all.
Oh, I know. And Paul, the sweet potato industry has came a long way with the different products. I understand that they're even using it now for pet foods, sweet potatoes, and now that's a premium priced pet food.
That would be a premium pet food that have sweet potatoes in it. But yeah, and of course, sweet potato growers are always open to other marketing outlets too, and maybe that's a way they can take some of the seconds and thirds that don't make it for human consumption.
That's right.
That provides a good market for them to move that product out too. Of course, they won't make as much on it, but it does get it utilized, and I like sweet potatoes. I'm sure
I do
pets would
too. I do too. Yes. Well, look, that's going to wrap it up for us today. We appreciate our fine supporting sponsors, Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Whether you're having it as a meal or a snack, you can't go wrong. We also appreciate Sandling Golf Cars, the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Their 11th annual show will be in Butner, October 6th, 7th, and 8th, which is a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And also thanks goes out to T.G. Brooks Company. And we're looking forward to being there next week with Bill, Roy, and all of their staff. And we want to let you know we appreciate you tuning in to the Garden Corner program. Thanks goes out to Paul Westfall. Appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here.
Not only to you, but all of the agents that share their knowledge with us here on the Garden